Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Missing those coupon codes, you can go to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, underneath the Money tab at the top of the page. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Stacy Tornio is a journalist, writer, marketer, and author of 20 books. She has written garden, nature, and activity books and books for children. She has her own imprint, Be a Good Human, focusing on picture books for thoughtful and socially conscious kids. Welcome to the program, Stacy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, we certainly thank you for taking time out of your day, not only to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners.
So what is an imprint, and tell us more about yours?
Yes, so an imprint in the publishing world is whenever you really want to focus on like either a subject matter or a certain type of books. And so you create an imprint. And so a lot of big publishers do this, and I decided to create my own imprint, focusing on books, picture books, kids' books for around the environment, gardening, stuff like that.
Well, what got you into writing books for children?
Oh man, I have been writing books for children before I had children, which is a long time because now my children are like adult children. I remember being in college and just being fascinated with children's books. And I went and took a children's writing class like as a side thing and just got, captivated with children's books, picture books, and like really that power to like write a story and impact a kid at such a young age. Like I feel like we all have picture books that we remember in our lives, and I just wanted to be a part of that. I think it's so cool.
Out of all of your books, that's a two-part question. Out of all your books, do you have a favorite? Are you allowed to have a favorite? Like some parents are not supposed to have a favorite child. And is there a vision of, if I could only write this type of book, I could say my authoring career has been completed?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I wrote a book with my son, and even though it does not sell that great, it's like, of course, one of my favorites because it's like 101 outdoor adventures to have before you grow up. And we worked on that book like really, really hard, worked on it together. So that's one of my favorites. And then probably the kids like picture book that I did, which started my imprint, is This Class Can Save the Planet. And so it's like really actionable ideas for students and kids to take to, have their own little impact on the environment, like in their classrooms every day.
Fantastic. So you write books about kids being socially conscious. Why is that important? Many people might argue that why do kids need to think about being socially conscious? Why is that important for kids to learn about this as kids and not later on in life?
Yeah, I mean, especially anything when it comes to like the environment or even gardening. You think about like how many kids like really know where their food comes from. And it's like, well, yeah, if kids are gardening and that's part of their life, like they get it. They know what that means. But there's a lot of kids that don't. They don't have that connection. And so that's what that means for me, of like socially conscious kids, of like making sure that like that cause and effect that they see, like that their actions, impact our environment, and like whether they recycle it, and it ends up in a landfill or not, and where the food comes from, and like making those connections, I think is really important. And it's something that sometimes I feel like we get away from, or we kind of forget that not all kids know that. So it's just really important for me to make those connections and highlight those subjects.
Well, and not so much where the food comes from, identifying what is actually nature food versus man-created food in the grocery store, because the man-created food has overtaken the natural food in the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, and it's like one of those things where it's like, if you just know, right? Like I grew up, I had my own farmer's market stand as a kid. So like we grew our own food and I had that connection. But there's so many kids that don't have that. And that's not speaking ill of like anything about them or their upbringing. They just like simply don't have that connection. And so giving that to them, like that's a really beautiful thing.
Fantastic. So your most recent book is The Ultimate Wildlife Habitat Garden. Can you tell us more about that book, what our listeners could expect when they pick up a copy, and maybe just something notable about it?
Yes, so this book is all about attracting birds, bees, and butterflies. So I actually spent 10 years working on the magazine Birds and Blooms, and I'm very proud of that time of my life where I learned just so much about, you know, plants that could attract hummingbirds and butterflies. And I spent 10 years learning this and learning from experts. And so it kind of became second nature to me that, like, oh, of course, bee balm is great for bees. Like, that's a great pollinator plant. And so I wanted to write a book that had like all of those best pollinator plants and host plants for butterflies. I wanted to like culminate that and put it in this book and really focus on plants that were, you know, easier for like the beginner gardener that wanted to get into attracting birds and butterflies and bees. So that's kind of what this book is about, really breaking it down, making it easy for the home gardener.
Well, you also wrote a book called Plants That Can Kill. I'm going to assume that that is a very interesting book. Tell us a little bit about that and maybe one of the surprises that you discovered in the creation of that book.
Yeah, this was such a fun book to research and write because it kind of started with like houseplants, right? Like there's some legit worries about having houseplants that might make your pets, you know, sick, you know, cats, dogs. And I started researching it more and it was just like fascinating to figure out what are those like really toxic plants out there. Like nightshade is a plant that has been in, you know, stories for years and years. It's in like legendary books. And that's a plant that still shows up in home gardens a lot of times. It's still those house plants again, like a lot of those, like the poinsettias, like not a lot of people know that the poinsettia is poisonous. Now, I don't know that it's going to kill your pet, but it, like if they ingest a lot of it, like you do have to be careful. So that was just a lot of fun to research that book and discover so many things that I didn't know before.
Yeah, the nightshade, the tomato is poisonous, but we eat the fruit, which is not. The rhubarb is poisonous, but you eat the stem and the leaves. You know, it's really unique. Number one, that we know that. Number two, somebody probably died in order for somebody else to learn that.
Right? Yeah. And then like I like to think of like the, you know, like old literature where like they're like the plants show up as like these like arsenic kind of plants, and I just think it's really interesting and part of our plant history.
Well, and just like they say, you can eat any mushroom at least once.
At least once, yeah.
Uh-huh. And then also, you on the flip side of that is that you wrote a book called Plants That You Can't Kill. You know, kind of what inspired that and is what else you want to talk about that's notable about that book.
Which one came first, the plants you can't kill or the ones that can kill you?
Yes, that's a good question. Plants You Can't Kill came first. And really the inspiration of that goes back to like, working at Birds and Blooms magazine. And people would ask, you know, the same questions over and over again, like, what's an easy plant that can tolerate drought? And I started noticing that, like, we're recommending the same plants over and over again for kind of that typical beginner gardener. And so, and when friends would ask me, friends and family, they'd say, oh, can you recommend a plant? And it was the same thing over and over again. So I took all of that and created the book, Plants You Can't Kill, to give people kind of an easy guide for that. And then, yeah, Plants That Can Kill came after, just kind of a play on the title and flipped that a little bit.
Well, Stacy, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered us. Number one, how can people find you? And number two, how can they find where all of your books are located on the internet?
Yes, I mean, all of my books are available on Amazon. They're carried pretty well by local bookstores as well. I've even seen in like World Market, I've seen a couple of my books. But you can find me on my imprint website, which is beagoodhuman.co. So it's .co, not .com. And you can learn about my books there. And I think there's links on there to all of them as well.
Well, Stacy, thank you so much for the inspiration and the dedication to help educate the children in our worlds, whether so they know where food comes from and how to be better stewards of the earth.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.